Chapter 20. The Second Heaven and the Sixth Teacher. The Form of the Storm. It all moved quickly, beyond what words could comprehend. One moment, words flowed from the Shepherd of Man and the Baptist. Then, without notice, the energy within the second heaven began to ascend. They had led me through a gateway, but all focus was upon the teachings they had described. They were like shepherds leading us, and so I knew to trust them as my guides. Where am I?
You're at the sixth mansion, which happens to be in the second heaven. Each level is a unique manifestation of the path to the divine, and each mansion is said to emanate an influence centered upon a teacher, a saint, a prophet, angel, goddess, or magician,
said a voice. There was a storm of clouds within this next level, yet the formless vision seemed to be held in place. A surge of energy was present, as if lightning was ready to burst through this second gate. Well, who are you?
It depends,
said the voice. Depends on what?
It depends on how a soul is willing to make amends,
it said. What type of amends?
There is weight in the lower world. This includes the past deeds of every woman and man. I am simply a link in a long chain of teachers, and so I work on behalf of the craftsmen,
it said. Then what do they call you?
They call me wise, and it is important to know what I do. I allow the opening through which the divine storm pours through,
said the voice. There was no fear here, but there was much curiosity as to where he was hanging around. But wherever this being was, he was nowhere to be found. What storm?
This is the storm that creates form. It gives life and it takes away. Some call it karma, while others call it justice. But what occurs is what all teachings reference as the end days,
he said. Does this involve harm?
I don't think of it as harm, but rather it is the work of a psychopomp. There must be a conductor of souls after what the inhabitants of Earth have undergone,
he said. But when you speak of a storm, and you reference the end times, what do you mean by this?
The unseen spirit has its ways of sending powerful signs,
it said. All the while there were only clouds, but his voice was coming out from them. What if he was not a man or a being, but maybe this was the voice of the wind? What kind of signs?
Spirit rarely speaks with words, but rather the Holy Spirit speaks with vibrations. There is nothing material in the afterlife, and so in heaven there are symbols from psychic, telepathic, and nonverbal communication. If spirit needs to send a message to Earth, then there is a need for a being who can pass in between. I do not ask for anyone to pray to me, but some see me as a deity on behalf of the divinity. I came not to call the righteous. I have come to deliver and free the sinners. Some call me wise, because I know how to traverse both up and down the great river,
said his voice. Then out of the storm cloud came the formless body of a blue man. He had a great mark upon his forehead, but I did not understand. I know you, the one that saved me long ago. Is it you, Otto? Now I understood the reason he never came back, for he was not bound to a human body, and all this while I thought he left, but now I could see he was in a higher space, looking down upon me at last.
Call me Arda, and you were born under my sign. That means we are deeply connected, as I am your first guide. Each human is connected to one of the mansions at birth, and you are home in mine. As we are in the domain of Arda, there is no other constellation that goes through as much self-sacrifice and transformation as us. No need to explain your emotional upheavals, for we are well aware of life and its chaos. Transformation isn't an easy path to God, but it is direct and fruitful. No matter how messy it has been, everyone knows that after a storm passes, the silence and calmness is most beautiful,
said Arda. What do you mean about this storm?
It's how we transform. Withdraw into yourself and look. And if you do not find yourself beautiful just yet, do as the sculptor does and cut away all that is excessive. Straighten all that is crooked. Bring to light all that is shadowed. Do not cease until light shines out of you as godlike beauty and splendor. We transform over and over again until we find temperance established in the stainless shine. We are the storm that comes to clear away what is not needed, and we do this to reveal how the gem of life is divine. Humans call some angels devils, but we do the handiwork of a great craftsman. Imagine wood of a fallen tree being crafted into a chair or a table. Is that wood being tortured, or is it undergoing a great transformation? We take what is old and decaying, and we bring it back to life. The journey to heaven is not easy, but it is worth whatever must be paid to meet such a price. Creatures of comfort do not wish for change, yet we cannot discover new horizons unless we have the courage to lose sight of our shore. More than dreamers, we are deciders and doers,
said Arda. So you pass in between heaven and earth to speak to man and woman? Then what do you reveal? Is it true that any storm that seems to cause chaos on earth is ultimately there to heal and bring us closer to the truth?
I do not reveal, since from the beginning all things are available to us, but in the course of time, through seeking, we may learn and know things better by looking within us. But as for certain truths, no man or woman has known it, nor shall they know it. For even if by chance God was to utter the final truth, God would not know it, for all is but a woven web of guesses,
said Arda. What do you mean, guesses?
It is the evolution, and just like a traveler does not know about the places they have not been, the reason the divine is the way it is happens because of the mysterious nature of it. So we are open to all guesses. To help you understand, we know that God is infinite, so any such explanation of God would perplex us. The point is not to capture the essence of it, but rather to be open and with it. Long ago, I worked with humanity and found you and a few others whom I placed great trust in. Yet in time, by the nature of the Spirit, I became invisible. Still I would send signs, and I would watch the world react. And so without words, there was much we discussed. All within silence, I would pass vibrations of wisdom from the 7 heavens that I had come to discover. Some souls would catch on and would transcribe messages directly from me. They would decipher it as stories or written words and spread it to the others. There were several treatises written. They were called mystical theology, divine names, celestial hierarchies, ecclesiastical hierarchy, and various epistles. But in time, such words were banned or called sinful, and so these messages were subject to book burnings by human governments or city officials. It's hard to get humanity to listen. They seem to be very attached to the ways of greed and harsh laws of man upon the earth. But there are a few souls who I admire and respect greatly, for you are among the human souls that were quite curious for views of the other worlds,
said Arda. What do you mean, views of the other worlds?
Have you ever suspected that upon certain physical locations, there is a divine connection, or that beyond the human range of vision and color exists a much larger spectrum? Maybe the average material man and woman is not interested in this, but if you are curious as to where human beings go after death, then you ought to listen. Some believe that after death, you simply cease to be, but those who have not journeyed beyond the land will negate the mystical and spiritual experiences. Some people believe that they will go to a pure land right away, or that they will be saved by another. But how can people be satisfied with that understanding and fully accept it? When it comes to accepting a world beyond Earth, most people are extremely reluctant. They may say, heaven is where you go to drink fine wine, or that you are joined by many virgins, but still, they are operating in the realm of human desire, which is what drives their assertions. But why listen to me? It does not matter if my words convince them. I am simply here to offer up what I know, so you do not need to listen,
said Arda. Please go on. This is precious wisdom.
Beyond death, there are high and pure worlds, and there are also low and unclean ones. We will find that we end up wherever we are destined to be, which is all based upon what any given soul has done, and so this action is called karma. The reason of any given placement is not due to punishment or a celebration, but rather it entails a sense of cleansing. It is a purification to further spiritual advancement, since every soul has come to continue a certain aspect of their soul's training. This hidden knowledge is gained through the experience, and so there is an external land of the mother we call the land of the root, where humans live upon. There is also the hidden world, or the astral world, the land of the dead, or the land of Hades, and the land of the mountain, where the souls can become guardians, watching over families for generations to come. The seven heavens are associated with that mountain, which we've come to know as God. Earth is simply the separation of a physical reality as the middle ground between that which is below and that which is above. And although many think in terms of an earthly mountain, this mountain of God is not so much pointing up, but pointing within. We are journeying within our own souls, and that's how we discover heaven,
said Arda. And so you're saying that all these worlds, the ones below, above, hidden, and the earth, are all interconnected? Can you explain this?
The ancients viewed the universe as consisting of both visible and invisible worlds, all parallel in nature. And so the material world and the hidden world are but reflections of projections from a spiritual mirror. Ancestral spirits exist in the invisible world and overlap with the physical reality, having an intimate connection with people living in the earthly world. And even in this unseen world, the ancestral spirits continue to work on their own purification,
said Arda. So you're saying the purpose of all this is to become pure?
The soul is already pure to begin with, but what we are curious about is a spiritual soul's journey. Each spirit soul goes through the worlds so that it may become a highly advanced spirit. Just as a flower blooms or bears fruit, we are concerned with the nature of discovery. Along this journey, a soul who commits misdeeds undergoes a process of atonement, and so we know that it takes the right combination of elements, nutrients, actions, and conditions for a lotus to open,
said Arda. What does the process of the spiritual soul's journey look like?
It depends on who you are and what you've been through. To many, this journey may come as a shock of the new. It can be a shock because it is a shift from what we're used to, especially if one's experience is immature or ignorant. But since all worlds are reflections of another, we are always upon a path, and however we treat the earth is a reflection of how we treat hidden and spiritual worlds. In essence, every single action is very much reflected. If we are filled with desire, envy, anger, arrogance, or greed upon the earth, then the soul must discover how to work with those intense qualities. The soul underneath the body seeks harmony, and so we go through experiences to learn how to become selfless, and through this process is the spiritual soul's journey back into purity. In the physical realm, we must understand that souls are spiritually immature and seek to advance higher by training the mind, which helps the evolution of the spiritual soul. Then the process of spiritual advancement could be presented in the form of 7 ascending circles. The growth and purification is not a straight line to the mountain's peak, but rather it is a type of switchback. In ancient times, it was called a labyrinth, and although you may get glimpses of the center to discover the soul's true nature, we still have to walk the entire path. The beauty about this journey is that there are souls, guardians, or kami who have traveled this path before us, and so we can rely on our elders' wisdom and trust that the higher beings in the spiritual realms are here to guide us,
said Arda. More and more energy continued to build in this cloud-like essence of the heavenly space. It seemed to be arising from down below before getting stuck in this transitory place. The energy was accumulating, and lightning was ready to burst. It was a forceful eruption in the making, and even with Arda's calm nature, the energy of this storm began to border the edge of going berserk. And can you teach me about this storm in your realm? Is there any way it can be calmed down? I see how the storm could hit the earth in an instant, so how can humans be better warned?
Such a storm is the energy from the all, and such a storm gives birth to all form. Look at the universe and its swirling galaxies moving around a center. We all contribute to how the storm transforms. Whatever actions occur down below are the vibrations that begin to rise. It does not matter if this action is good or bad. The effect of all actions does not simply vanish or die. The consequence of action goes on, and so the vibration of this storm is like a reflection that's charging up and ready to be sent back. In essence, this storm is God's voice, and when it's ready, the storm will erupt in an effort to wake people up. In the same sense, we can view the negative side of this, which happens when the vibrations of our actions upon the earth settle and come to rest. Some call this death, but it is a great reset. All creatures on earth must endure it, as all living life is subject to it. There is also an inverse process of what is happening above, and instead of mud piling up, which will eventually give birth to a new life, we are concerned with formless vibrations from the earth's actions which are ascending. But since some of the actions are not pure, then these vibrations get stuck. This is also like a layer of muck. Whereas mud on the earth settles to give birth to life, vibrations that are impure cannot ascend into the high heavens, where an intense form of spiritual energy comes as a disruption to awaken us. It is not good or bad, but all of it is concerned with spiritual energy here. This formation of this storm is a space where karma, or our actions, are separated, because all creatures know how there is a big difference between love or fear. There is no court of judgment to decide a sentence or punishment, but rather it just is. All of creation is subject to cause and effect, because this is the source that continues to give. It gives us opportunities to evolve, and if a species declines or fails to grow, Then slowly they dissolve into the ground before new life arises from down below. Yet the soul keeps going, and so nothing is lost. And even in the case of a storm that might really disturb us, it helps the soul break through the spiritual and mental barriers where a soul could get stuck or caught. It is not good, and it is not bad. It simply is, and it becomes a reflection from all of our actions. What is most important is to realize the sensitive nature of this energy. So if a soul was to stab someone and murder them, that vibration reaches out to all of eternity. It is not that we are being judged, but rather it happens vibrationally. There is a reaction to the action, and we measure this in frequency. Those frequencies can be pure and divine, or they can be like static upon a TV. What your actions reflect outward is what is inwardly embodied. So when we examine this growing storm, it is a reflection of Earth's own vibrational frequency. It is not God condemning anyone. It is the reaction from all of humanity's own energy. This forceful vibration of action and its effects is pushing up against the divine source, as if all of our actions are messages to God. The proof is in the vibration, because all action is a reflection of the deeds that have been caused,
said Arda. And what will come from this enlightening energy? You said that it could shock people awake, but from what I'm sensing, this also has the power to devastate.
The energy is great, and it needs no debate. It can change the course of history, as this storm is called fate. After enough time, say a couple thousand Earth years, there comes an opening, like a hidden link to the spiritual world that reappears. Spirit and form come together, and that's a lightning strike. Here the veil breaks open and allows all of humanity to awaken. This is a reflection, and so we call it karma or action. And so in the Vedic tradition, they call it Rananabandha. There is no way we can figure it all out, so enough of the form of the storm. Come sit beside me and let us watch the dream,
said Arda. The dream? What do you mean, the dream?
Well, it's like a divine river or a stream, but come gaze upon what's happening. Do you see the soul of the living and how the path of life is free living?
Said Arda. What do you mean, free living?
It's natural. Just as humans are connected to the earth, we are all gifted by the reflection of the four directions. Let us honor the four elements, as there is much to be respected. How marvelous it all is. Why, just look at her. It's all happening in its own true nature, but so many cannot quite see her. Yet it's all in this moment. It's all happening right here,
said Arda. Then a moment later, I saw a dark woman's hand holding up a peacock feather. Hey, who sent her?
The entire cosmos is a reflection of its own true nature. It's all perfect. Can you see the mystery that is hidden within her?
Said Arda. She was hiding all right, and her hand reached out of a cloud. It seemed to be the dark woman that I had seen on Earth. But how did she get here? Because I wasn't sure if she was allowed. I think it was the dark woman that snuck into the Mother's Pyramid. But who was she? And why is she spying on you? Where are we again? What is our exact location?
Imagine you are tucked away somewhere, like an old mountain cavern, just a bit off the beaten path, like a hidden oasis beside a great river,
said Arda. From the clouds, I could see the earth was down below. The vibration was aware of all the earthly actions, but it was beyond what intellect could know. Yes, this was a force of birth and death, and it caused all things to grow. It was never fully shaped, it was impossible to be known.
Imagine if your children began to multiply, and you grew so old that you never had to see a single one die. What would you discover about their nature? You would see the reflection of their actions, like a mirror of energy that comes back, depending on what everyone upon the earth does. It's just like a mirror. Whatever our actions do is what happens. All words and life are the children of creation. There is not a single group of chosen people. We are manifestations of the divine, and awakening is the key principle. So you don't need a key, because you know we're already free. Within our nature is everything we need,
said Arda. I wouldn't let my eye off the dark woman, because now she was holding up a golden key. What was she doing, trying to get noticed? And why was this dark woman taunting me?
Isn't it magnificent?
Asked Arda. The vibration of all earthly action was everywhere, and it was the feelings of everything that ever occurred, all summed up in a frequency that was beyond human words. Every impact, no matter how big or how small, all created the great chain of cause and effect.
One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world. Even with all the static, each soul is the universe in motion that is divine and ecstatic. And there is one task that the universe asks. It gives us a shock to see if we wake up. And do you know what they call it?
Asked Arda. The earth was ripening like a great fruit right before my eyes.
We call it life. We are waking up to our potential. This is the future evolution of the human woman and man. We are approaching the divine life upon the earth, and it's happening in the form which is called human. And do you ever wonder if God lived so long and saw everything and everyone come into unison and harmony? And so I wonder if it's like a labyrinth of mirrors leading to endless unity. Surely the path is long, and for most the path is hard. But we are upon that path, and surely the labyrinth would end in the center of our heart,
said Arda. Oh my! I know the purpose of life and death. It's all a spiritual pilgrimage. What if God lived so long that God saw everything everyone ever did while living in their bodies? But God loved us so much that no soul was ever forgotten. The labyrinth of life may appear harsh, but the awakening is breathtaking. Imagine static turning to calmness. It's a divine vibration. Such energy of static is growing, and it signals humanity's own true awakening. So when you speak of the recollection of all past actions, some may call this the Akashic Records. Some could call it the records of an empty hall. Some call it the universe, and others might view it as a universe of stars.
Oh, was there? When after God waited for a long time, God took us to the tomb of certain philosophers, and all of us gathered to renew our oath to the spiritual world in God's honor. And when the tomb was opened, there was an ivory casket discovered, and there inside of it was the key of secrets, which was the nature of the peaceful mind. And so there were 7 locks, and it looked as if the last one was waiting to be opened. And when we come to open it, surely we'll observe the obscurity of such a mystery and its arrangements. Such a vision opens so we can feel the essence of the senses through knowledge, for there is no reward at the end of life, because we already possess the ultimate treasure. And so out of nowhere, one rose among us, more worthy than the others, both in the sight of spirit and by reason of her age. She said unto the others, Unless we shall come and ask the interpretation from the Lord, with tears and pleas, we shall never arrive at the knowledge of it,
said Arda. A moment later, the dark woman's hand emerged again. It was within my reach, and within her dark hand was a single fruit. What is she getting at?
Ah, the star fruit. So these stories of mythology are trying to express a truth, one that cannot be grasped in any other way. It's the edge of the interface of what can be known, and so, when people look back, they call it history. Gaze ahead, and we call it future. But if you catch a glimpse in the present moment, then you'll be like us, as we call it the mystery,
said Arda. Present before her, this dark woman held out a certain fruit. But what was she getting at?
Star fruit,
she whispered. What's it do?
Creativity is not just about making art. It's about using intuition, intention, and purpose to navigate uncertainty and bring your imagination to life. The inner artist is being called to action, and we need what you have to share,
she whispered. So she cares? Arda, do you know this dark woman?
Yes. Don't you see it's the Divine Mother? And so, when we think of why these stories are important, we have to look at what they're getting at. It's the journey into the heart and back,
said Arda. You mean the labyrinth?
It's important to live with the knowledge of its mystery, and by realizing this, we become part of our own mystery. You have a history as well as a future, and this gives life a new zest. Part of the mystery is how there is always a call for the quest. I find that thinking in mythological terms has helped people visibly. It eases the anxieties. It puts us in accord with the inevitability of our lives. And we can see the positive values of what appears to be negative, because at the end of existence, it's all a wild ride. But it's all one ride, and we're upon it together. So who's going to say no to the adventure? The good news is that it never ends. The bad news is that it goes on forever. But the whole point is how it's the entrance into the mystery of the heart, which is what really matters. We are discovering our heart. That's the adventure of being alive. To what parts of existence do we give life? Oh, what a sight to admire. Some call it Maya, which is the veil of life personified,
said Arda. Then the gift of life is the adventure of living, but we view it as what we are vibrationally emitting, like a tone or frequency. It's all energy, and in our own way, we're heading into the heart of the mystery, which is the path from our past causation into our own awakening.
Oh, the joy of living,
said Arda. Yes, to explore, but to where?
Into the sacred heart. Some call it the temple on the mount. Some see it as a mosque, while others view it like a torii and an entrance. Discover God within that temple. Go sit with God and see what transpires. And sometimes we have to be open to the mystery in ways our mind cannot understand. And sometimes we are called to journey through the stars,
said Arda. The stars? What are you on to? All the while, the dark woman had been holding out that star fruit. Have you been up to the stars?
I've been into the center, then back out of the labyrinth, and now that I've seen into the mystery of it, I'm aware and open to all of it. That's the heart of the mystery of it,
said Arda. And do you know this dark woman? I asked. Arda was a rare blue being, and he seemed to be the type that would be silent when no one was around. And had he been dancing upon the clouds? Each step calmed the thunder, the same way a physician treats pain. The aggression of all past action was within the dark clouds, but as he danced, this heavy vibration began to ease and retreat. Arda danced from a place of care and gentleness, a sight I began to adore.
Yeah, I know her. That dark woman is my great teacher,
said Arda. She's your teacher? That's the woman behind the Kali Yuga,
Ah, but just wait until you see the mystery of it,
said Arda. As Arda danced upon the cloud, the energy took on a type of spirit, and within this formless energy, there was a personality to it, a journey of what we had all been through, and this spirit was tuning into the awareness of Arda. All the joy, sorrow, gain, and pain reached up to touch up above, and seeing it as sacredness, it was all happening out of a place of love.
Here comes the rain,
said Arda. It started with one drop, then one became two became three, and then it started to pour. This cloud was filled with healing generosity. Now the wrath began to calm itself. Healing was possible, and such a recovery could heal the human condition. Thank you for the rain, I told Arda. What I saw in the cloud is that there was a hidden essence to the mystery. Like a sacred gateway, one word would call it a Torii. It was another entrance into the heart of our story. As I looked over, I saw that Arda had come to cry, and so I asked, "Is this dark woman aware of what you just did with the sky?"
She is the sky, and she covers all of the starlight. If you want to know more about the mystery, trust my greatest teacher, and she'll reveal what's waiting beyond human sight. Always rest in the mother's lap, and when you get out of her lap, try to protect yourself. She says, "All right, go on, go ruin yourself." Because how can one take care of themselves? The law of karma is too big for you to tackle alone. But if you stay in the mother's lap and rely upon her for everything, she will always provide,
said Arda. Looking closer at the dark woman's hand, there was an iridescent blue underneath it. So about the star fruit,
why not take a bite of it?
paused Arda.
Mother, I give you my soul, corner of the silent sky, corner of the mountains of men, corner of my secret soul Ma, corner of my cave of silence.
Arda trusted her, and so I took hold of her star fruit. And why? Because it would be so nice to see a view of all the other worlds. Yet I never knew what to make of her dark nature, and that was the mystery of the matter. As I ate the star fruit, I saw Arda in a mystic trance. Then all of a sudden, the clouds and the sky began to shimmer and dance.